everyone. Today we are dealing with quadratic equations. We'll be drawing graphs, the graphs that we call parabolas. And the graphs that we'll be drawing today are the smiling graphs. Well, to understand everything about this, let's get into it. Our question reads, for each of the following quadratic equations, construct a table of values and then draw the graph. So we are given our first equation. Our quadratic equation will be y is equal to x squared plus x minus 2. And we are given the x values, the range of the x values. So our values for x should be from between a -4 to a +3. So those are the values that were given for x. So we are asked to construct the table of values. So here this is how we can construct our table of values. We've got the x values and the y values. And since already we are told about the x values, they range from a -4, so we are going to include our x values there. Let's put a -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and lastly our 3. So it's easy to do this with a calculator. You can simply punch in your numbers. Let's say you've got so that you get your y value, you can simply make sure that you draw this, you punch in this equation in your calculator. But today we won't use the calculator. For this video we will use the manual way, though we'll be using the calculator to find the values, but we won't directly punch in we want to see how it goes when we're doing it manually. Okay, so let's say for the first x value, that is -4, we say what is the value of y. So our y when x is negative, so we've got our -4, this should be squared, plus our -4, and then we subtract a 2. -4 squared, this will give us a +16. So we know this will give us a +16, plus a negative there, you will remain with a -4 minus 2. So what is 16 minus a 4? It's a 12. 12 minus a 2, your answer will be equal to a 10. So our y there will be equal to a 10. So you put the value 10 there. We come to the second one when our x is a -3. So 3 squared plus -3 minus a 2. So there we get our -3 squared, we get a +9. So 9 plus and a -3, we get a negative there. So it will be -3 minus 2. Then 9 so 9 minus 3, it's a 6. 6 minus 2, it's a 4. So we get our 4 there. So the value when x is a -3 using this quadratic equation, we get our 4 there. So our y value will be a 4. So now let's come let's see now when our x is a -2. So we do the same. -2, we square it, plus -2 minus a 2. So our y value there will be equal to -2 squared, it's a +4. +4 minus 2 minus a 2. There we get our value as a 0. Because 4 minus 2 is a 2. 2 minus a 2, if you get nothing. So we get a 0 there. Okay, so we do the same for a negative y1. So when x is a -1, there you get your -1 squared plus -1 minus a 2. So our y will be equal to -1 squared will give us a +1. So we get our 1 minus a 1 minus a 2. So 1 minus 1, you get a 0. 0 minus a 2, you get your -2. So there you get your -2. So our y there is a -2. Okay, so let's see now when y is a 0. This one is quite simple. When y is a 0, you simply go get your 0 there squared plus our 0 there minus a 2. So 0 squared gives us nothing still, plus 0 is nothing. So our y value there is a -2. So this one gives us a -2 as well. And then now we come to when x is a 1. So we substitute the 1 to the equation there. Let's see what the value of y will be. So we get our y being equal to 1 squared plus a 1 minus a 2. This will give us 1 squared is a 1. 1 plus 1 is a 2. 2 minus 2 gives us nothing. It's a 0. So there we get our 0. And then we come to when our y is a 2. So let's find the value. When our x is a 2, let's find the value of y. So our y would be equal to a 2 squared plus a 2 minus a 2. So 2 squared there will give us a 4. 4 plus a 2 minus a 2. This definitely gives us a 4, a +4. So when x is a 2, our y value is a 4. So let's do the last one. When our x is a 3, let's find the value of y. When x is a 3, let's see what the value of y will be. So our y will be equal to 3 squared plus a 3 minus a 2. So our y will be equal to 3 squared gives us a 9, a +9. 9 plus a 3, then minus a 2. So 9 plus a 3 is 12. 12 minus 2 is a 10. So you get your y value being equal to a 10 then. Okay, we can sketch the graph. This graph is, since our coefficient there, the coefficient of x squared is a positive. So we know this because there's no negative sign there, and we know that there's a hidden one there. There is a hidden one. We usually do not write that one down, and that hidden one is positive. So when this is positive, we usually term this coefficient an A, this coefficient a B, and this one a C. So since this one is positive, the coefficient of the x squared, so our graph definitely, our graph should be a smiling graph. It should give us something like that, something like that. So we'll see how it goes. Let's just check our real graph. I'll use the graph paper. I don't want us to sketch it. I want us to try to draw the actual graph by using the graph paper, but you can still sketch this. And whenever you are sketching your graphs, you won't need all these points. You just need 4 or 5 points to sketch this. To generally sketch this graph, we are doing this generally. So we've got these points whereby when x y is 0 there and there, at a 1 and a -2. So we now know there should be our -2. So the graph is cutting the x-axis at a -2, 0 and at a 1, 0. So there is our 1. So we definitely know that our graph, and it's also cutting the y-axis at a 0, -2. So we know this because whenever a graph is cutting the x-axis, this one is the x-axis and this one is the y-axis. Whenever it's cutting the x-axis, it's doing so when the value of y is 0. And it's cutting the y-axis when the value of x is a 0. Just like here, we know here it's this point, it's when it's cutting is the y-axis, and these 2 points, it's when our graph is cutting the x-axis. So then by this, because we know it's a smiling graph, roughly we'll know that it will to go like our graph must. Okay, now let's draw our graph with our given coordinates. Now we have a from that we are deriving from the table of values. So let's see, we are going to use a scale of 2 centimeters. You see this box, just this, it's 2 centimeters, it's a square, so it's 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters. So we'll use a 2 centimeters to represent 2 units. Okay, let's see how it goes. So we'll try to use a 2 centimeters to represent 2 units, and okay, so this is our x-axis, and this is our y-axis. Okay, let's hope we can see them. All right, so this square, there we'll write our 2. So for this square, we'll write there is our 2. And for this one, it's a +4. Then there it's a 6. And there it's an 8. And then it's a 0 there. That's our origin, where both the y and the x-axis meet. And we've got our -2. And we've got our -4 there. We've got our -6. And our -8. I just want to see whether we can see clearly. Okay, for there we've got a +2, +4, positive 6, positive 8, and the positive 10. Okay, down here we've got negative 2, we've got a negative 4, okay. I'll try to use my highlighter. 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. I just want to use my marker so that at least we can see. That one is a negative 4. And then we've got a 2 there, a 4, a 6, and an 8. A negative 2, negative 4, negative 6, and a negative 8. All right, so now we've got our first coordinate. It's our first coordinate is it's a negative 4, 10. So it means that our first coordinate is a negative 4, 10. So we always start with the x value. So our coordinate must always be in this form. We start with the x and then followed by the y value. So let's see on the graph how we can draw that. So there goes our negative 4, 10. So negative 4 is right there. There is our negative 4. It's the x value. So our negative 4 is right there. And our y value is at 10. So we go up from the negative, we go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So they meet right there. So we put our mark there. You can put your x there. Some people put a dot. I don't know whether you can see this. So we put our mark right there. Our second coordinate is a negative 3. So our negative 3 will be in between, halfway in between negative 4 and negative 2. So our negative 3 is right there. So from negative 3 we go to a positive 4. From there we go right there. There's the y coordinate. So there goes our next point. So we mark it there. So our third point is negative 2. There is our negative 2 for the x value, negative 2 and a 0. So it's right there because the 0 for the y is there. So that point is just there. So let's check our fourth point. It's a negative 1. Our negative 1 is between a negative 2 and the 0 there. So our negative 1 is right there. So our negative 1 is there, and negative 2. So negative 1 and negative 2, it goes there. That's where they meet there, right there. -1 and -2. And then we've got also 0 and a -2. So it's right there. 0 and a -2. And we've got also our next point is 1. Our 1 is there. There is our 1 halfway in between 0 and 2. Halfway between 0 and 2, there is our 1. So 1 and 0 is on the x-axis because the y value is a 0. So it must be on the x-axis. So our next point is 2, 4. So 2 and the 4 goes there. And our last point is a 3. A 3 is there. There is our 3. It's a 3, 10. So our 3 is there. We'll go up, up, up. There is our 10. So now we do have our points. There is our first point, second point, third one, fourth, fifth point, sixth, seventh, and our 8th point. So now we are to join these points. Let's draw our graph joining these points. So try to have a smooth graph as possible, because this is not a straight line graph, but it's a parabola. Okay, trying to draw a graph. Okay, there goes our graph. I just want to make it bright so that we can see it. Let me try to make it, to lighten it. So there is our graph, the graph of y. So this is the graph y is equal to x squared plus x minus 2. So that is our graph. Okay, let's look at our second example. The second example says we are given our equation y is equal to 2x squared minus 2x minus a 3. And we are given the following ranges for the following range for the x values. It's x is from -2 to a +3. So let's see how we construct the table of values and also draw the graph of that equation. Okay, so we do the same thing that we did for our first example. We have our table of values. So we've got our x and our y. This time our x is ranging from a -2. So let's have our -1 0, 1, 2, up to a positive 3. So let's see the value of y when our x is a negative 2. So this would be negative 2 squared minus a 2 times a negative 2 minus a 3. So our y value for this one would be 2. Negative 2 squared gives us a positive 4. So 4 times this 2, we get our 8. And then negative 2 times a negative 2 gives us a positive 4 minus a 3. So our value there will be a 12 minus a 3 will be equal to a 9. So our y value there is a 9. So put our 9 there. And now when x is equal to a 1, let's see the value of y. So there we'll get our negative 1 squared there minus a 2 times a negative 1 minus a 3. So our y value there will be equal to negative 1 squared. It's a positive 1. So positive 1 times a 2, it's a 2. Minus a 2 times a minus a 1, it's a positive 2. Then we subtract a 3. So 2 plus 2 is a 4 minus a 3, it gives us a positive 1. So our value when x is a negative 1, there will be a positive 1. So now when x, this one is simple, when x is a 0, you simply know that this whole thing will be a 0 and also minus a 0. So we know we are simply left with a negative 3. But in case you will get confused, we will write it down still. So when our x is a 0, it's like 2 times 0 squared minus a 2 times 0 minus a 3. This will give us 0, 0, and negative 3. So there we get our negative 3. So now when x is a positive 1, we'll see what the y value will be. So minus 2, then there we get our 1 minus a 3. So our y there will be negative 1 squared, it's a 1. 1 times 2, it's a 2. Negative 2 times a 1, it's a negative 2 minus a 3. So 2 minus a 2, it's 0. 0 minus a 3, you remain with your negative 3. So we know that when x is a 1, our y is a negative 3. So let's see when x is a 2. So when x is a 2, our y value will be, there we square, minus a 2 times a 2 minus a 3. So 2 squared is a 4. 4 times a 2, it's 8. 8, negative 2 times a 2, so it's 8 minus 4. And then minus a 3. So 8 minus a 4, it's a 4. 4 minus a 3, it gives us a positive 1. So we get our 1 there. Okay, let's look at the last one when our x is a 3. So when x is a 3, there we substitute our 3 there. So 3 squared minus a 2 times a 3 minus a 3. So our y will be equal to 3 squared, it's a 9. 9 times 2, it's 18. 18, negative 2 times a 3, so it will be 18 minus a 6 minus a 3. So 18 minus a 6, it's a 12. 12 minus a 3, we get our positive 9. So we get our 9 there. So let's draw our graph and see. Let's draw our graph. We can use the scale of 2 centimeters to represent 1 unit. So this time so this is the y axis and this is the x axis. Okay. Now our first coordinate is -2, 9. So we've got -2, 9. Oh, let's label first. Let's label our graph. It's there. We've got our 1, 2, 3, and a 4. Okay, we labeled our graph 1, 2, 3, 4, and our origin there. We also made sure we labeled that. So there it's our -1, our -2, our -3. Okay, so let's label it the y-axis. We've got our -1 there, our -2, and we've got our positive values there for the y. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, go up to our 9 there. Our first coordinate, it's -2, 9. So there is our -2 and our 9 is up there. So it meets they meet. We put our mark there. I'm putting an X or a cross. You can put a dot, depends, doesn't matter actually. And our second coordinate is a -1, 1. So -1, 1 is right there. Our third one, it's a 0, -3. So there is our -3. So 0, -3 is there. It's right there. So we've got our first point to be a -2, 9 there, and our -1, 1 is followed there. Now we've got our third point there, being a 0, negative 3. So let's go to the third coordinate. It's a 1, 3. So there is our 1, 3. Oh, it's a 1, negative 3, sorry. Okay. Then we've got our fourth coordinate as a 1, negative 3. So it's right there. 1, negative 3. Then we've got 2, 1. 2, 1 is right there. And then we've got the last one, a 3 and a positive 9. It's also up there. Then when you've got all these, you join your points. And since it's a parabola, it's not a straight line graph, it must be curved somehow. And today, as I mentioned, we are drawing the smiling graphs. As you can see, our graphs are facing up. They show a beautiful, nice smile. So these are smiling graph. Why? Because our coefficient for the x squared is positive. That's why it's giving us a smiling graph. Okay, so let's try. Okay, I'm trying to make it as nicely curved as possible. So there goes our graph. That one is a negative 3. Let me try to zoom it a bit, if we can see it there. Okay, this is how we construct our table of values and then using them to draw our graphs. It's not that difficult, it is simple, and our graph is a smiling graph. As you can see, our graph is a smiling graph, as you can see. So that's it for today. Bye.